Sure, the police fix the carpet, covered ground to walk around, fabricated sweating fabric, hiding when you're due to freak. It's that, not this, that, not this, that, not this. Blasting punk rock to the masses. See the 20-somethings yell. Still the scorecard shows the stats as easy lamps, zero passes. That, not this. That, not this. That, not this. You protect while you project now. I'll spin you off your bonus round, mimicking your only know-how. Scrap the pity, I'll try not to that, not this. Who am I to tell you grow up? Critic of the critic now. The cynic of the cynic now. What? Lose my credit easy and it's that, not this. That, not this. That. Honest process, steady progress. Not out. When I came to, I thought of you and left the harbor for Boston proper just to hear you. 'Cause we the people, and I'm your equal. So when you say no dog should have you straight, I know that you're talking to me. I hope that you're talking to me. Elizabeth, your constituents appreciate you, but do they get you? I think I do. You meddle with the hypocrites, and you work for every blunder. God, such a thrill. I can hate the people, but you're the easel, baby. So when you say no dog should have you straight, I know that you're talking to me. And when you say the crooks will have to pay, I know that you're talking to me. I hope that you're talking to me.
Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. How we all doing today? Let's get a vibe check going. Kitty, Maya, Joel, Sushi. So good to see you all. Cal. This is Braving New Worlds. If you're joining us right now and you don't know who I am, my name is Courtney Love. I'm a variety streamer. I love playing video games, but I also love interviewing artists. I love introducing people to artists that I think are making the world a better place by doing what they love. And tonight is no exception. Tonight's guest is Sunkin. They're an LA-based artist. If you put !Sunkin into the chat, you can find their Bandcamp. You can find them on socials, on Instagram and on Twitter. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kabir, aka Sunkin. Let's go over here. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, Kurt?
It's going well. How's your day? Tell me about your day.
I worked, and I got some groceries in between working, and I set up some audiovisual equipment for this. That was basically it. I made some TJ's shrimp fried rice.
Nice. Good call.
Yep.
Used to work for TJ's, but still a big fan.
I also used to work for TJ's in Berkeley and in New York.
Interesting. Very interesting. So it's so great to have you on the show. Been wanting to do this for a while now. We had audio. Someone's saying audio. Is audio coming through? I think it is. Their audio is a little quiet. I'm just going to raise you up a little bit.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, so we had Boy Romeo on the show just last week. And I absolutely love the song that you both worked on together.
Thank you very much. Yeah, John is an amazing songwriter, amazing guitarist. I was super stoked to work on that song and get to flex on the harmonies a little bit.
Yeah, they were really good, and I like your style as well. So could you tell me a little bit about your influence and what kind of defines your style today?
Yeah, Sunkin, it's definitely a little hard to pin down. This band started as kind of like a psych folk band. I was really influenced by Animal Collective and the band Y with a question mark, and also Sufjan Stevens. And it's gone through a number of changes just because I've also gone through a number of changes. I think we all have. And I think now it's kind of defined by being a little undefinable. There's everything is generally pretty melodic, but there's also a big sense of groove in my music. So this year I put out an album called After the House, which is a dance pop album, and that was Bandcamp's album of the day back in February. But I've put out kind of sophisti-pop-esque records before. I've put out bedroom pop stuff, more indie rock leaning work. So the stuff that I'm working on right now and the single that I just put out called Doom Scroll is a little bit more in that Sufjan Stevens kind of vein, but maybe a little bit more wry and sarcastic. But I think that as I've learned about how to arrange and how to add cool drums, other elements, and played in other bands, I've been able to add those things to the music, so it kind of gets its own flavor and its own texture and stuff.
Thank you. That was a great answer. And something that really pops out to me is the lyricism of it. I feel like it resonates a lot with people that are at least a little bit more introspective, particularly during the pandemic. So can you tell me a little bit about where the inspiration comes from when it comes to lyrics?
Lyrics, they're a tough one. Honestly, I think that that's the hardest part of making music for me. I find that music itself really is just embedded in me, and I just kind of coax it out. And then lyrics are, I generally will have some nonsense when I first start writing a song, and then kind of listen to the nonsense, see what it's telling me, and also try to think about words that are in the air. I've always written lyrics that include phrases that I liked, that I just heard on the street, on TV and movies, from things that people told me. The last single that I just put out, called Doom Scroll, was very inspired. My partner and I wrote this song together, my partner Nicole, and it was very much inspired by this press release that came out during the height of the pandemic by our awful mayor, Eric Garcetti. And the press release basically was like, hospitals are closed, do not go outside, do not take a walk, but businesses are open, so you can like get a pedicure or whatever if you want it. And I felt like that was very just connected to everything that we feel on a daily basis, living in this kind of capitalist, techno-capitalist dystopia, and where, you know, our needs for community, our needs for being able to feel our emotions are subsumed and pushed down in favor of things that can make us money. So Buy From Your Friends is part of the chorus of Doom Scroll, and it's something that I believe in, but it's also feels like it comes from how especially technology companies, social media companies, have dissolved our relationships with each other into these sort of parasocial things where we're selling things to each other rather than talking to each other.
Wow. It's a very sophisticated way of thinking, and I'm very interested about how you came to these sort of realizations. Yeah, so like, what was the journey in sort of like realizing like that we live in this sort of like dystopian, very capitalist, in ways that you like want to change it as well?
Yeah, I think that what I noticed, even kind of before the pandemic, I was just seeing a lot of infographics going around about, you know, if your friend's not responding to your text message, you should probably, you know, find out whether they're doing okay, like their mental health, their diagnosis. There was a lot of like, let's make sure that. It's a little hard to explain, but there were all these barriers that we were starting to put up for each other in terms of like, you know, social media has kind of dissolved our sense of creating boundaries. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of, I remember this one kind of unhinged text template that I saw someone post. And it was basically like, someone had texted them and they were like, hey, I'm not sure I can hold space for you right now. In the future, please just ask if I can hold space for you before I text you. And it felt unhinged. It felt like no way to have a friendship. And I saw the way that language, the way that the policing of language that was starting to happen on social media was basically adding to the idea that we can't talk to our friends, we can't talk to the people we love about, and this kind of goes to your second question about creating community. I think that I feel, especially now that even after the pandemic, that there's this kind of partitioning of each person into this bubble. I'm sitting here with all my video equipment and my lighting equipment and stuff, and feel that way. You know, we weren't able to go to shows and everything, and it just sort of contributed to this isolated feeling. And I think that's true of so many other parts of society. You go outside, and you see an unhoused person, and you have whatever reaction that you have, and generally that reaction, we are not made to feel community with that person or with anyone that's depressed or not being given the proper resources. I think the first step for me would be abolishing the police, because I think that so much money that we put into that could go into services, could go into just any number of ways for us to feel connected, for us to take care of each other. I recently played a campaign fundraising show for my friend Albert Corrado, who is running for LA City Council person for the District 13, which is right now Mitch O'Farrell's district. He just basically routed everyone who lived in Echo Park this year and basically put them out onto the street again without any solution. And I see that just happening a lot in LA, and LA, especially the LAPD, feels like a bulwark for the rest of the country and the world. So that's kind of where I'm at.
It's all resonating with me, and I feel like we can have an entire conversation about detachment and the sort of individualism that, you know, corporate markets like want to sell us, you know, and be like, you aren't a person unless you know, do the sort of I don't know, like participate in this sort of like commodified version of activism, you know. And everything you were saying about, you know, your friend becoming a city council member is very inspiring to me. I report on government meetings here in Chicago, and so I report on city council meetings, and I just got done reporting one on settlements on behalf of the Chicago Police Department. So it's just like the conversations that they're having with one another about, like, do we mitigate this risk? Should we just go to trial? How much is it going to cost us? And it'd be like, we're talking about costs. We're not really talking about accountability here. It's, well, I just have to say, I agree with a lot what you're saying. And people in the chat, I think it resonates with them. Someone even said pop off. But I'd love to get back to your music if we could. Tell me what sort of purpose has music done? What purpose has music served for you in your life, and how has that purpose changed?
That's a great question. I was born in India, and my parents moved around a lot when I was a kid. I wasn't an army brat or anything. They just kind of wanted to get to the West, I guess, for better opportunities and stuff. And throughout that time, I was using music as a way to kind of center myself and ground myself. My parents listened to like crazy amount of music, classical, jazz, Hindustani classical, Bollywood music. You know, my dad loves classic rock. My parents bonded over Leonard Cohen, so the folk stuff was deeply embedded in me as well. It served as, I don't know, at this point, it's like a lifeblood to me. It's like one of the main reasons why I do anything, why I'm alive, why I wake up in the morning. But as a kid, it was definitely a way to like find myself in a place which I didn't really know. And as I kind of moved around to different places, I lived in New York. In high school, I used the music scene as a way to get community, get introduced to people. And a lot of my closest friends are the musicians I worked with, the artists I've worked with. So it served as a way to come up with community. Obviously, there's like a validation that every musician gets from music, and just a way to kind of feel beautiful, feel glamorous. I think that's something that is underrated with music, especially music that's underground. I think there's a lot of focus on numbers. There's a lot of focus on if you don't get to this level, what's the point of doing it? And the point for me of doing it is that there is no point. It's just, you just do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the how you're talking about community, how important it is to you. But I'd love to hear about your experience in entering these spaces as a person of color. And I can only speak to my experience in that, you know, it is a little bit more difficult to enter these spaces that are predominantly white, and then trying to find a commonality, which of course would be the music in this case. But can you speak to that in any way?
Absolutely. I think that when I was in New York, it was like high school when I was first starting to enter musical scenes. I was really drawn to like hip Brooklyn indie scenes, and I definitely felt like there were a lot of people of color that would enter those scenes and be super excited about the music and be sort of disregarded, not put on bills, on the worst end, kind of treated as a punchline. And this is true of people of color that were more privileged. Like I was more privileged, and people of color who were in those neighborhoods and who came out because they really loved the music that was happening, and just kind of being disregarded, and that has felt like a kind of a theme throughout my music making. I've kind of skirted a lot of scenes where you'll have a lot of white people making music, and maybe you'll have like a couple of token people of color, but it feels difficult to even mention. I can't think of even one indie rock person. Like whenever I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, Voxtrot, and that band was around in 2006.
Yeah. I love that band though.
It was a great band.
Yeah.
You've got it's almost like I have to like grab people of color who look like me from other countries. Like Rostam is not Indian, but I'm definitely like, wow, Rostam, I love him. I don't like, I love his work in Vampire Weekend. Not the biggest fan of his solo stuff, but it's still like there's this kind of globbing together of a lot of definitely Asian musicians, but it's true of basically any people of color. Indie music definitely has a race problem, a whiteness problem, yeah. I mean, I appreciate any opportunity to be able to be like, I can bring something new to this. I have, joined a few bands recently where, a bunch of white people have accepted me and allowed me to kind of work with them and develop stuff, and that makes me feel really great. So, there's definitely good and bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are some of your hopes and aspirations for the scene itself and becoming a more accessible and inviting space?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just, and I'm not even sure if this is, it almost is like more of a top-down thing, is more community spaces, because just having spaces is the hardest part of putting together a show. Most spaces are owned by white people because most property is owned by white people, and it feels like that's one of the first things. I think also I have this idea. I make like lots of different kinds of music, and one of my ideas is I remember Yeji would bring kimchi and other Korean food to her shows, like her very early shows when she wasn't like massive. And that's something I've definitely been wondering about. Obviously, it's very difficult to do this kind of thing while we're in a pandemic or while it is becoming endemic, but I would really love to have more to do with food and less to do with alcohol.
Yes.
When you've got a show, it doesn't even necessarily, obviously a rock show, a punk show, it's a little difficult to, sit there eating some curry, but, I feel like there are so many shows and, public, open spaces where if you were the band and you were giving out food, it would just be such a way to bring people together, and a way to also, I feel like, accept these different tastes and flavors and smells, which I think is such a big part of it's hard because you're like, of not being a white person, like what is that? That's just some sort of construction. It's just part of living in the world, is eating food that has smells, and I think food and music are so intrinsically entwined for me. So I think
Absolutely.
that's a big thing for me, bringing some of that kind of hominess back into the music scene.
Oh, that's an amazing idea. I mean, the idea of just activating a space with these new ideas. Like perhaps it's a potluck. You know, maybe it's like a little bit of a hangout before the music actually happens. Because shows in and of themselves are transactions, right? Of experiences, and so it'd be cool if it was more of a communal experience as well. So, I am so in for your idea. That sounds amazing. So I'd love for us to get into some songs if you're ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just
Yeah, of course. I'll check in with the chat, see how everyone's doing. Derek, welcome to the stream. Seagully, how you doing? Where's one? How you doing? Welcome. Green New Deal, welcome to the stream. I'm Courtney Love. This is Sunkin. Hope you're having a great night. All right, let me know when you're ready.
okay, just 1 second.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, my alt tuning.
All good. All good. We're just
The
hanging
alt
out.
alt tuning. All right. So this first number is actually an older one. It's from my first album, Good Feels, which is actually still only available on Bandcamp. And it's called Branches Out. And it's a little bit of like where Sunkin started. So here it is. Whenever you're ready. Don't want to jump the gun here. All right. If wood could speak and I understood, what would it say? But I'm so tired. The silence of unconscious things is deafening within my mind. The bitter language between us is rancorous. Your leaves and your branches fall prey to my glances. Is this thing benign or in? Is it crawling over you like it crawls all over me? Have you been blinded yet by sentiment or sediment or words that will trick you? I know that it's time to get out. When branches start snapping, the whole thing's about to collapse. Have I lost my track again? Will I run the train into the wall? Will I locomote until I'm dead? I've been acting like a child, so confused about the zestful life that I do not want. Leafy whisper. Leafy whisper. Leafy whisper beyond my reach. Leafy whisper beyond
Incredible. Thank you so much. Oh, the instrumentation, the lyrics, and you've got pipes, my friend. Green New Deal please says favorite song. Love this one.
Oh, okay. Oh, hi, Nicole. um, oh, this next one is one that I wrote with my partner Nicole, who I think might be Green New Deal in the chat. And it was, we met online during the pandemic, and it was a little bit about dating during the pandemic, but just also about kind of boundaries, setting your expectations, and it's called Till I'm Whole. So here we go. Sorry. Woke up on the edge. You took all the sheets in the bed. Hey there, are you dreaming? Broke a yoke this morning. Sickened by the smell. Can the virus come through my front door? Oh, hold me till I'm whole. Under pressure over my mask, if you crush me, I will be transformed. I got all the texts, I got all the calls. I'm not home, I'm just in my home. I wanna take your hand, yes, but first I must take mine. Oh, my wrist, it needs some icing. Oh, hold me till I'm whole. Under pressure over my mask, if you crush me, I will be transformed. Under pressure over my mask, if you crush me, I will be transformed. Thanks.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that first track is on my first album, Good Feels. So if you do the thing in the chat, you can find that.
Amazing. Yeah. Put exclamation point Sunkin in the chat. And there's some typing of claps in the chat. So they enjoyed that one, definitely. I think a lot of us can resonate with that idea of this, this love that we're experiencing within the pandemic. I don't know if this is true to your experience, but I feel like a lot of the relationships that I've created online during the pandemic, particularly on Twitch and with my Discord, are probably some of the most fulfilling I've ever had in my life. I've gotten to know these people who are themselves unabashedly, and who are true to themselves. And I think seeing that allows me to be a little bit more authentic to myself. And does any of that resonate with you?
Absolutely. Let me just mute my room mic here. Absolutely. I think that since the pandemic, basically right when it started, I had this band that I had put together after years and years of being in the Bay Area. I had like an eight piece band that was like my favorite musicians from the Bay, my best friends. And then the pandemic hit, and we basically all scattered pretty fast. Um, and I was spending a lot of time online, kind of meeting people, talking to people, trying to keep some momentum and just some community to replace not being able to go to shows. And I definitely found a lot of musicians who I've now, met in person. I've collaborated with. Um, I've become close friends with. Um, and now that things are kind of opening, I've gone to some of their shows and I've met them in person, and they've been just lovely people. And I feel like that is definitely an aspect of like um, almost being forced to be your genuine self online, because anything else would feel sort of um, empty and wrong in some way. Um, and I really cherish that. I mean, I've always had a big kind of online community, I guess, because I moved around a lot as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a way that I would keep my friends close. But obviously, as the years have gone by, everyone has gotten more online, but online has gotten worse. So it's it's been kind of trying to find people who you can trust a little bit to be
Mm-hmm.
themselves, um, to say the things they believe in online, but not take themselves too seriously, not be like um, sharing things because they think that they have to share them. Um, and I think I searched that out both musically and in like the way people post. I'm like terminally online as well. So yes, I definitely feel that it resonates with me.
Awesome. And something that I'm interested in that you mentioned before was, since you moved from Bangladesh to the West, and since you moved around a lot,
Oh,
um,
it was India.
it was India. Okay. Since you moved from India to the West, what, and of course you're with your family, but did you feel like that assimilation in any sort of way was affecting your closeness to your heritage?
Um, yeah, it's funny because I actually moved away from India when I was 3 years old, but I would go back pretty often. I think a lot of the biggest ways that I connected with India were through food, through listening to music that my parents would play, and through visiting my grandparents, and then again through food there. Um, Whereas I think most of my other facets of my life were about assimilation. And even now, I definitely feel kind of this disconnect, made a little bit more complicated by the fact that the same kind of fascist nationalist uh, rumblings happening here also are happening in India. But I think recently, the last couple of years, I've definitely reached out, especially to like my cousins, people my age in India, and kind of watching them, have very similar opinions to me, and have kind of a similar outlook on how life is and how it could be, has been really heartening, and has helped me feel like not as guilty. I think that guilt was a big part of assimilating here, because um, it just happens so automatically. Like the West kind of forces you in a lot of ways. It's interesting because I speak completely differently with my parents and with people that I know here, and then sometimes when I see cousins or friends from India who live there currently, I have this kind of unsureness about what language, what code basically to use.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I noticed that is definitely a point of inflection, but also a point of like, oh, cool, I can still, you can be both of those things. And I think that my music is very strongly kind of espousing that as well. You can be both of those things. You can be lots and lots of different things. I think as I was growing up, the diaspora for Indians tended to be this kind of monocultural, kind of nationalist, like Bollywood CEO thing that I didn't really relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only recently that I've been really trying to reach out to other South Asian creators. Honestly, not that successfully yet. So if you're a South Asian creator, hit me up. Let's collaborate. Let's do some stuff. Yeah, so it's almost only recently that I've been able to kind of reach out for that type of community.
And it's great that you're making the effort now, being a little bit more conscious about what your experience is like. Someone in the chat did redeem a hydrate, so if you'd like to take a sip of water with me, I'll be sipping my tea, of course. But
oh yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
So I'd love to ask about some like cheeky stuff, popular culture, maybe the formative experiences of your youth. Do you feel like there's a particular piece of media that was very formative of the kind of person that you were, and if that changes over time, like if there's multiple?
Something I remember very distinctly is I think we were in Egypt at this time, maybe 95 or 96, and Wannabe by the Spice Girls had just come out. And my parents and I just really loved that song, and we loved the video, and I just knew every single word of that song. So I don't know, "Wanna Be" by the Spice Girls, that's a big one. Other like Frasier,
Wow,
fucking
great
Frasier.
show.
It is possibly my favorite show, definitely up there, and my parents definitely also love it a lot. So there were, Frasier, Spice Girls, a lot of these kind of things that you wouldn't expect to share with your parents, but when you're moving around together, I feel like I'm maybe a little closer to my parents because of that. We kind of had this discovery of popular culture at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two that I can remember off the bat.
I have those things from my parents too. Yeah, with like my parent. Well, I guess my mom would be like the Golden Girls. That was our shit. We would watch that all the time. And I think for like music, me, my dad, and my mom, we all really like the Bee Gees. Very heavy into.
I too.
Yeah. Listening to the concerts, the one night only concerts and stuff like that. Saturday Night Fever, I think, was a very formative like movie for us. Upon a rewatch, that movie does not sit well with me, but the music is still hitting very hard.
So in 6th grade, that is actually a huge one for me, the Saturday Night Fever album. I have never watched that movie. I've seen maybe like clips of it, but I listened to every single song on that album, loved it, sang every song on that album. I had a very, very high voice until it dropped, and kind of still do. And I fucking love the Bee Gees so much. My parents do too. I think my mom's favorite is Tragedy.
Oh, great song. Wow.
It's a great song, yeah. And I kind of underrated it before, along with, their non-Saturday Night Fever discography, it's really good. But yeah, Saturday Night Fever is a huge one. I also remember like, for some reason, like a lot of disco dancing to that in, I don't know, maybe it was parties that I was having, but I also remember it just like middle school dances. Sometimes Staying Alive would come on and I knew every word and I was dancing around, and that was big for me.
Hell yeah. So what about like pieces of literature or like TV shows? I mean, what's like on your queue, or is there anything that you've been reading recently that resonated with you?
Well, right now I'm reading Dune because I've never
Nice.
read it, and I saw the movie and I actually really liked it.
Same.
I still need to watch the David Lynch Dune
Very
because
campy.
very campy, and I kind of could use that energy right now. Um, I just finished reading this book called Everything Now
Mm.
by Rosemance Baldwin, and it's like about LA as a city state. I've always been pretty interested in LA in general, and obviously then I moved here last year. But it's about kind of how LA is so much more than obviously the city borders because it's so amorphous, it kind of sprawls out forever. But it's also so much about like these various pockets of community that would not be possible anywhere else. So that was a really good read. What did I just feel like? Is it over there somewhere? I really love Simon Hanselman, and this is actually a shirt of one of their characters, Werewolf Jones, and they do the Megan Mogg series. So I just read Crisis Zone, which is a kind of a serialized non-canon version of their characters going through the pandemic.
Oh wow.
And the character Werewolf Jones becomes like the Tiger King. He becomes the Anus King because he carries dildos into his butt. And I just that really got me through the pandemic. I would say those like kind of serialized, absurd versions of what was going on in the pandemic. So I did just read that one. Definitely recommend Simon Hanselman. They are always like serializing old comics on Instagram. If not, you can buy a book too, which are really beautiful. My camera tripod is On Top of White Teeth, which is a great book, which I still really love, and I feel is very
Awesome.
related to a lot of the stuff we've been talking about in terms of immigrant feelings and guilt and diaspora and stuff.
I'd love to ask about some of the artists that you're listening to that you're excited about.
Yeah, might use this to plug a couple bands. I actually am part of this band called Guppy, which I just joined. I had opened for them in the Bay, and they're kind of queer, tender punk with like Beach Boys harmonies. It's really fun, really, really good songs. And I just joined them a couple months ago, so I've been playing live with them and just listening to their new album, which has not come out yet, but you can hear a couple singles on Spotify and all the things. Guppy is the name of that band. They're actually produced by Illuminati Hotties, who I also really love. I've been listening to that record recently. I love the band Cheek Face. I feel like I opened for them in the Bay as well. They have like a crazy, absurd lyrical style, which I really like and am inspired by. And I just played some percussion and keyboard with them live the other day, which I was really, really stoked to do because they're one of my favorite bands. Otherwise, I feel like, this is the kind of question where whenever someone asks it, I'm like,
I'd be like, I could show you my Spotify Wrapped if you want. Like,
the problem with my Spotify Wrapped is it's a lot of my own music. It's like it's embarrassingly a lot of my own music. So yeah, I've been listening to my own music. No, I also really like ambient music. So I've been listening to people like Mary Lattimore, Chie Hatakayama, Grouper, who obviously is just so amazing. Yeah, I've been listening to those. I've also been listening to the Jasmine Sullivan album, Ho Tales, really good record. Yeah, just like everything, a lot of things. Dance music, ambient music, pop music. Oh, the Sufjan Stevens Angelo D'Augustine album is really, really incredible. Angelo D'Augustine is an artist on his label, on Sufjan's label, who really sounds like a younger version of Sufjan and has the like kind of crazy high voice. And on that album, which is called A Beginner's Mind, they kind of hew back to basics, and the songs are very catchy, warm, and you can't really tell who's singing a lot of the time, which is something that I just love. I love harmonies. I love unisons. Um, I'm always listening to this one album by the Roches, who are like a folk trio from upstate New York in the late '70s. Robert Fripp produced their first album. Yeah, really love A Beginner's Mind by Sufjan and Angelo D'Agostino.
Awesome. Well, we have about 10 minutes left before the hour is over, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I'd love to ask about the collaborations you've done. What's it like working on a song during the pandemic when you're kind of just using the internet to make stuff together?
Yeah, I feel like I was really well suited for doing stuff remotely. It's funny because I talk about community all the time, but I tend to really like my alone time and just generally like my time to experiment and make things. So I would say like a big part of the pandemic was for me kind of practicing on different things and honing my mixing chops, my arrangement chops, all that stuff. So when it came to collaborating, it felt very natural. I just collaborated with Boy Romeo, as you were saying. That felt super natural. I mean, he had written the main melody of that song, of the chorus, and he wanted me to sing on it. And he really gave me a lot of leeway in terms of what I wanted to do with the melody. And we basically just talked back and forth maybe 2 or 3 times, sending demos back and forth, which was really fun. I think that we're just really well suited to making music together. I've also been collaborating a lot with my friend Miguel, who has a band called Miserable Chillers. They're just like one of the best arrangers, best composers that I know, also best lyric writers. And they perform a little bit over, the last couple of records that I've done. And it's become really, really normal to just send a thing to each other and be like, would you do this for me? Or when the person receives it, they're like, oh, I would love to throw some fretless bass on that, because Miguel plays bass. So it's really natural, and I just love doing that. I've also, when vaccine stuff was happening, like right after the thaw, like the beautiful June that we had, my friend Phil, who goes under the name DeLeo is his band, he came down here. We took off like 5 days to just make a record together. And we made like a 5-song EP that I'm really, really proud of, that we're still working on, that should come out next year. But the IRL collaboration was like a totally different, but also incredibly vital feeling that I had missed so much. And it kind of kicked off a summer of collaborations with Guppy, and with a couple other people. And it's interesting because that type of collaboration, it incorporates so much more of your body. It incorporates so much more of like, I feel like time moves differently. A lot of what we were doing during that collaboration was like, let's make sure we can move. This is my like studio area, and it's supposed to be a dining area, and it's very small. So much of it was like ergonomics. So much of it was like making sure that we could both move. And that kind of acceptance of the body, that kind of, ability to harness the energy of the body felt really different as a type of collaboration, but equally necessary. Like, I hate duality. I don't believe in it, but there's definitely I definitely believe in collaborating both ways. Because I think when you do it online, there's a lot of guesswork involved. There's a lot of I'll be bouncing something and I'll imagine how the person that's going to receive it is going to receive it. And I'll be like, oh shit, I just realized something that they would be thinking because I know them, that I have to change. So there's a lot more going back and forth kind of with your own mind with online collaboration. Whereas IRL collaboration, there's a lot of going back and forth with like the physical realities of your body.
Right. Wow, those are not completely different dynamics, but interesting dynamics to compare to one another. I have to say this was such a fascinating conversation, and everybody in the chat is saying that high key, low key want to be friends with Sunkin, and they're even requesting another Sunkin stream in the future.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have you back at any time you'd like, anytime you're working on something, or if you ever just want to shoot the shit and talk about this world that we're living in. You're always welcome to come back on.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah. I just wanted to check in. I don't know if you're interested in doing another song. If you have another song in you, you're more than welcome to do that. Otherwise, we can call it a night. But
Let's do another song.
sounds
So,
great. Awesome.
do some little plugging before. Okay. So this is a song called Doom Scroll, which is out now on all the things, the Bandcamp, all the platforms. And it's the one that I talked about earlier, kind of inspired by infographics on Instagram and that kind of flattening of relationships. So I'm going to play that one now. But it's very related to what you were talking about earlier, because I wrote this song and then just invited a couple of my friends over, and one of my friends put banjo on it and another friend put clarinet on it, and it was really immediate and fun. So definitely a lot of collaboration involved in the recording of this one. I also am about to put out a cover of a Beach Boys song called Till I Die.
Yes.
It's just one of my favorite Beach Boys songs, the only one that was written solely by Brian Wilson. He wrote all the lyrics and all the music. And I'm going to be putting that out, what is it, on Thursday. So Wednesday night for all you streaming buffs. So yeah, just check that out. Follow me on Spotify or whatever you use, Sunkin. And this one's called Doom Scroll.
Awesome.
Mes amis, l'air toxique, une journée parfaite. L'infographie dit ne sois pas triste, tout sera traité. Achetez vos amis, ceux qui ne sont pas encore morts. Prenez soin de vous, c'est sauver l'économie. Voici comment parler à votre meilleur ami. Si vous pensez pouvoir le diagnostiquer. You and me, toxic air, perfect day out. The infographic said don't be sad, you will be handled. Buy from your friends, the ones who aren't dead yet. Care for yourself and save the economy. Here's how to talk to your closest friends. If you think that you can diagnose them properly, buy from your friends, the ones who aren't dead yet. Care for yourself and save the economy. Here's how to talk to your closest friends. If you think that you can diagnose them properly, Buy from your friends, the ones who aren't dead yet. Care for yourself and save the economy. Here's how to talk to your closest friends if you think that you can diagnose them properly.
Woo!
Thank you.
Amazing. Everyone's like, someone let me tip this bean. Wish we could tip. Ayo, for real, does Sunkin take friend requests?
Definitely. Add me on Instagram, sun.ray.kin.
Excellent. Yeah, put exclamation point Sunkin in the chat. You should be able to get their socials. Kabir, thank you so much for coming on the stream. It was a real pleasure, and you're always welcome to come back.
Absolutely. Will do.
Awesome.
Thank you for being so supportive and friendly.
Of course. All right, so we're going to be sending you over to the Disposable America channel. There is the last Tuesday night live of the year going on over there. So more live music. So you're going to be getting some great stuff over there. Thanks, everybody, for coming on by. And have a great night. And enjoy this song by Boy Romeo that's actually featuring Sunkin. Okay? All right. Good night, everyone.